Spider-Man 2 is by far the most hyped game dropping in 2023, and after the insane success of God of War Ragnarok in late 2022, it's safe to say that fans of first-party Sony games are gonna be eating good in a few months. All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel, and today we've got some new updates for Spider-Man 2 that we're gonna go over, as we do have some updates regarding the game's graphics. If you guys didn't know, there's been some controversy regarding how the game looked. A lot of people were questioning on whether or not this game was meant for the PlayStation 5, as a lot of people thought that it looked like a PS4 game. So I'll be addressing that controversy, as we do have an update from Insomniac Games regarding the gameplay graphics that we got during the PlayStation Showcase. Speaking of that, while the PlayStation Showcase was certainly underwhelming, it was awesome to finally get a good look at Spider-Man 2's gameplay, and in today's video, we're going to go over all of the news surrounding the epic reveal. So if you're excited for the next open world adventure from Insomniac Games, be sure to like the video and don't forget to enter the 120,000 subscriber giveaway. If you'd like to enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, comment your Twitter handle, and then tweet me proof that you're subscribed. I've got more details in the pinned comment. So first things first, let's go ahead and talk about the villains of Spider-Man 2, because a hero is only as good as their villains, right? And while a handful of villains have been featured front and center in Spider-Man 2's marketing, there are several and more that have already been confirmed to be making appearances. The main two baddies are obviously Venom and Kraven the Hunter, but the gameplay trailer also confirmed that the Lizard will be playing a major role in the plot of the game, at least during Peter's black suit arc. Wraith is also confirmed to be returning, who is the alter ego of Yuri from the first game. They started their villain arc during the 2018 game's DLC, The City That Never Sleeps. Wraith was confirmed during a brief cinematic where Kraven's hunters show him some intel that they have on various hunting targets in New York City, and that little segment also confirmed that Black Cat will also be returning. Tombstone and Prowler were also confirmed in this brief sequence, which is also really exciting, and there are multiple inside sources who think that Taskmaster will be showing up, which makes sense, and Shocker is also confirmed. So hopefully we get to see Black Suit Spidey recreate his famous Shocker moment from the 90s animated series. Now, aside from those main names, it's believed that Green Goblin will show up at some point in the main campaign, as he was teased multiple times in the 2018 game, and we know the Osborns are going to have a major role in the story this time around, although we have no idea as to what the Green Goblin costume will look like or what his exact origin story will be. But needless to say, Spider-Man 2 will have an awesome lineup of villains, and hopefully the boss fights will be even better than they were in the 2018 game. Now, as for the game's open world version of New York City, we got a pretty good look at it during the gameplay trailer, and some fans on the internet went through the footage with a fine-tooth comb to give us a better understanding of what is actually going to be changing and what's different in Spider-Man 2 compared to the previous games. Turns out quite a lot is different, mainly the fact that it's going to be way bigger, likely to accommodate the wingsuit and faster movement. Spider-Man 2's version of New York will seemingly include all of the landmarks of Spider-Man 2018, but with the addition of new areas like Queens, Brooklyn, and the East River, which will add a ton of extra surface area to the sandbox. So if you're concerned that Spider-Man 2 is going to essentially be a copy and paste of the last game's map, it seems you won't have to worry about that at all. Spider-Man 2 is looking like it's going to be the biggest open world superhero game of all time, with only the possible exception of Batman Arkham Knight, which is awesome. It's not clear just yet if fast traveling is going to be confirmed to be making a return, although I'm assuming it will be. Now, I suppose that it's possible that Insomniac decides to cut fast traveling thanks to the much faster mobility, but ultimately I think fast traveling is a good quality of life feature that they should keep in the game, and if you don't want to use it, then just don't. Now, as good as this game looks in motion, there are quite a few things that people have already started pointing out as potential performance issues. The frame rate looks a little choppy in certain areas, and with several recent AAA games running quality mode at just 30 FPS, there is a decent chance that Spider-Man 2 follows in those footsteps. But if you look at how they optimized the first game, I don't see how they don't give us 120 FPS with a high frame rate mode with ray tracing enabled. But the main thing that a lot of people are pointing out is the water, which admittedly does look a little rough at times during the gameplay reveal. However, I think that people are just trying to blow this out of the water and trying to turn this into another Puddle Gate 2.0. For those of you that weren't following Spider-Man 2018 during its reveal period, the first gameplay footage we saw of the game featured a combat section with several water puddles around the environment, but when the full game launched, a number of those puddles were either removed or just shrunken down in size. Some people tried to blow this up into Sony and Insomniac being liars during the gameplay demo, saying the game was downgraded whenever it launched. Like, this was all the talk on the town. People were losing their minds at the fact that the puddle wasn't there, whenever realistically this is an open world game that has a weather system that changes the environment with the weather. So it's like, of course the puddle's not going to be there if it's a sunny day. But like most of the gameplay previews, this is not the final build of the game. So I think all of this came down to was the final build simply reduced some of the visual load in order to get the game running as clean as possible on the PlayStation 4 hardware. They weren't trying to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. They were just trying to ship a stable product, and sometimes downgrades, even if they're just the slight downgrades, have to be made in order order to get the game running perfect. Now, this is not me defending the practice of using gameplay showcases as an opportunity to misrepresent your final product, but I don't think the Puddle gate in Spider-Man's case was a good example of that. If anything, it just made me lose brain cells because like people were losing their minds over a puddle that wasn't as prominent in the final build of the game. That being said, I think people criticizing the water effects in Spider-Man 2 are on a bit firmer ground. There are definitely parts of the footage that the water doesn't look great, but we also have to remember that the only time that we saw water effects during the gameplay trailer were when the characters were moving at high speeds and we were just getting brief glimpses of it. And this was all on a live stream as opposed to being raw gameplay that we were seeing with our own eyes at its native resolution. Now, the water effects weren't the only thing that had people freaking out. They just said that the entire gameplay showcase didn't look graphically good. It didn't look like something that should be on the PS5. It looked like a game that would release on the PlayStation 4, which, like, I understand this is not the final build of the game. I'm sure once they're done with the final coat of paint, Spider-Man 2 is going to look absolutely amazing, just like Miles Morales did, as well as Spider-Man Remastered. One thing that I really have to drive home, and you guys have to remember, is the gameplay of Spider-Man 2 that we saw was not the final build, and Insomniac themselves have confirmed this. Shortly after the showcase, after a lot of people were pointing out the graphics of Spider-Man 2's gameplay, Insomniac's community director stated that the gameplay was not final and there is still work to be done, meaning we obviously did not see the final build of the game that we're going to be paying for when the launch day rolls around. While this does technically mean that things can be downgraded, this more likely means that things are going to be touched up and adjusted for the better, which is a very good thing. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom improved a lot in the short time between review copies going out and the launch version being released, so with a few more months in the oven, I'm confident that Insomniac Games will be able to iron out most of the issues that people had whenever it comes to the textures, the overall lighting, the graphics, and of course the frame rate stutters in certain areas during the gameplay showcase. Now, in addition to assuring us that the gameplay is not the final build, we also have the statement from Jim Ryan of PlayStation regarding the game's final form. In an interview with Famitsu, Ryan stated that Spider-Man 2 has experienced no compromises during development, and that will continue to be the case until the game is finished, presumably meaning that if the development team needs more time or money, they're going to get it from Sony, no questions asked, which shouldn't be surprising given the fact that Spider-Man 2 2018 sold over 20 million copies. On top of that, Spider-Man 2's gameplay reveal garnered almost 20 million views on YouTube in a matter of days, and that's not even counting the views on other social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. After the live stream, the trailer was uploaded to both the official PlayStation YouTube channel and the official Marvel channel, and both of them are absolutely swimming in views. The hype is through the roof for this game, and Sony knows it, so I don't blame Jim Ryan at all for taking a no compromises approach to the sequel, because no matter how much money or time is spent on this project, they're going to make that money back in a matter of hours once it launches. Now, with all of that being said, I do find it interesting that Sony and Insomniac still have not put a release date on the project, although Jim Ryan's recent confirmation of the no compromises approach may explain why we haven't actually gotten a solid release date. Multiple industry insiders have claimed that the target release month is September, and Sony has stated that the game will launch in the fall of this year, but without a solid release date. It seems like they're leaving the door open for another possible delay, so at this point, I'm totally fine if they decide to push the release date back so that they can make the game as good as possible, because after the massive backlash to AAA releases like Jedi Survivor and of course Redfall, Sony does not want a game with major technical issues or else they're gonna get ripped apart. Gamers are sick and tired of buggy and unfinished AAA games with mediocre performance caps, especially whenever they're charging $70. And I think the refusal to put a solid release date on Spider-Man 2 is simply Sony and Insomniac making sure that they leave the door open for a delay if they need it. That said, I'm expecting the game to launch in September, and hopefully Insomniac doesn't have to rush the finish line in order to hit that. It was recently confirmed that Insomniac Games released Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and that game did not have any type of crunch, meaning the developers didn't have to crunch to try to get the game to release at a certain time, which I think that's another one of the reasons why we don't have a full release date for Spider-Man 2, is they're in a situation where they'd like to target a fall release date, but they're not going to force that release date if that means the development studio has to crunch to be able to get the game out. If we take the line from Shigeru Miyamoto, a rush game is always bad, but a delayed game is eventually good, is a statement that I think more developers need to live by. I mean, look at Tears of the Kingdom. During the delay announcement 1 year ago, Tears of the Kingdom was feature complete, but they decided to take the entire year to polish the game and make sure it lived up to their expectations as well as the fans' expectations, and it did. So if fall starts to roll around and we still don't have a release date for Spider-Man 2, I'd be perfectly fine if they delay the game until they need to make sure that we get an experience that is totally worth our money. So did the graphics and gameplay look a tad bit rough for Spider-Man 2? Of course it did. It's not a fully finished product. It was enough for us to see what the game looked looked like. So hopefully after all of the polishing, we get a great Spider-Man game that looks incredible. I am super excited for this game, and if you're still watching this video, chances are you're excited too. So let me know in the comments what you thought of the gameplay trailer. Do you think the game looked downgraded compared to Spider-Man PS4? Because for me, the details and visual fidelity looked awesome, especially whenever they were in the indoors environment. The ray tracing just looked absolutely crazy. But before you go out and spend money and pre-order the game, maybe let's just wait a little bit. Wait until we get a fully firm release date and they unveil more aspects of the game. We get one more good trailer that shows off the graphics of the final build, or just wait to play the game day one. Do not pre-order. That's a practice that you probably should not be doing nowadays, especially after the disaster of Redfall and of course Jedi Survivor's buggy performance. But yeah guys, that's gonna wrap it up with this video. Don't forget to enter the 120,000 subscriber PS5 giveaway. If you'd like to enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, comment your Twitter handle, tweet me proof that you're subscribed. I've got more details in the pinned comment. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys again soon.